Like Jeremiah the prophet, I truly believe that I was called from my mother's womb. While my mother had me, she prayed that I would be a pastor. That was something that I did not give in to until I was almost about 28 years old in 2008. I was born again of May of 1989. The person that led me to the Lord was my second grade Bible teacher, Miss Ruth. She asked the class a question of, do you know what happens to a person when they die? With that question, she shared the gospel with the class. She said, those that don't believe in Jesus will spend eternity in hell. And those that believe in Jesus by believing in their hearts and confessing his name with their mouth, Jesus is Lord, can be saved. Afterwards, she asked the question of who wants to receive Jesus as our Savior. I raised my hand, and she led me to the prayer. Of course, I know that it's not the prayer that saves us, but what comes from Romans chapter 10, verses 9 through 13 says, whoever believes in Jesus with their heart can be saved. Whoever confesses his name with their mouth, Lord, can be saved. Whoever calls upon the name of the Lord can be saved. That all happened right here over at East Moline Christian School. I attended Weston Christian School. Through my time there, I went to the youth program that the church offered. That is where I started fellowshipping more with other Christians. And the youth leaders took us to places like King's Dominion whenever they had some sort of youth concert. Through that program, I had an opportunity to know what it means to serve in a local community. One summer, they did this thing called Helping Hands. It's where we will go to the elderly and try to fix certain things in their houses. And then from 1997, I went to my first mission trip to Texas. It was in McAllen, Texas. It was right along the border of Mexico. And then in summer 1998, we returned there. That was a real eye-opening experience for me. Going to Mexico showed what real poverty looks like. And that kind of got me to be more grateful for what I had growing up in the United States. Now, in 1998, I was driving my dad's car, and I was speeding, and I got into a car wreck. This was a couple of days before I went to a conference in North Carolina. It was a conference that had different speakers and such. And while there was when I started to feel a nudge of God calling me to ministry. After I graduated Weston Christian School as salutatorian, I went on to Liberty University. At Weston Christian School, I graduated with about 8 people. I am the one that is standing third on the right. In high school, I would say I was pretty much an all-around student. I played basketball all 4 years, and then my junior year, they added a soccer program. Along with participating in athletics, I did well in academics. The 3 of the 4 years, I had perfect attendance, and 3 of the 4 years, I had the highest overall average. Going into my senior year, I thought I had a really good shot at finishing number 1 valedictorian. I always thought that if you're going to do something, then you should be the best at doing it, and that means being number 1. That was my goal. I failed that goal. I ended up graduating second as salutatorian. I attended Liberty University from 1999 to 2004. While my time there, I had opportunity to serve the community. Each semester a student has to do a certain amount of community service hours. One of the things that I got to do was to go serve at a nursing home. One of the dorm leaders took a couple of guys and we sang songs and we shared the gospels and we just attended to the elderly. Original plans for me at Liberty University was to be a youth leader. So I was leaning towards like a youth major. And then in early 2000, I switched my major due to being more interested in exercise. I chose exercise science, which I graduated with in 2004. So from 2004 to 2009, I was a personal trainer. I received my bachelor's degree in exercise science in May of 2004 from Liberty University. From 2004 to 2009, I believed in fitness. I originally planned to be the world's greatest personal trainer and own and operate many Gold's gyms. After graduating with Liberty University, I did personal training in Lynchburg, Virginia from 2004 to 2006. And to 2006 to 2009, I did personal training throughout the Richmond area. That was where my passion was until God called me into ministry in 2008. After I graduated from Liberty University in 2004 with a bachelor's degree in exercise science, I worked as a personal trainer from 2004 to 2009. From 2004 to 2006, I did my personal training in Lynchburg, Virginia. And then from 2006 to 2009, I did my personal training throughout the Richmond area. On my return to the Richmond area in 2006, I had an opportunity to be a youth director at the Fort Lee Memorial Chapel. I did that about less than a year. I took the opportunity not so much to be a youth minister or pastor. I took the opportunity to gain administration experience. I believe that will be very beneficial to my original goal. My original goal was to eventually own a gym franchise. Therefore, along with my personal training skills and administration skills, I thought it would help me reach that goal. Well, at the end of 2007, God had different plans for me. I kind of hit rock bottom at the end of 2007. In 2008, God opened an opportunity for me to be a youth director at the Full Gospel Korean Church. I really grew with those kids. I had a total of about 15 youth. Their ranges aged from 5 till 16. And I took them to different places. I took them to ATF. I took them to Go Tell Camp, and we did youth lock-ins and game nights. And a lot of those kids were growing spiritually. I think two of the youth became born-again believers at Go Tell Camp. I'll never forget that night and that time. I mentioned earlier how my personal training was dwindling down. Still, I personal trained from 2008 to 2009. I was at a crossroads in my life. Going through the youth director was a blessing to me, and the scales fell off my eyes. I saw two of my youth get saved through evangelists there preaching and teaching the gospel. And I'll never forget that night. I was bawling. I was crying like a baby. I was completely broken when I saw that. And that same year, the Boston Celtics won the NBA championship. And that came out of my mind. The Celtics were joyful and cheerful, and yet they didn't experience what I experienced that night. That's how joyful and broken I was at the same time. I was on my knees and I was repenting to God. I said, sorry, God, for living my life for myself. I'm sorry for being so selfish, Lord. I completely surrender myself to you. Whatever it is that you want me to do, I will do. And at that night, I surrendered to God's calling for me as a pastor. And so I got home. I told my mom what had happened. She broke it down and cried. Now, I'm not sure how I was going to get there yet because I still had to be a youth director at the Full Gospel Korean Church of Hopewell. Yet in my heart, I eventually would return to my home away from home, that being Liberty University. Well, my run as a youth director came to the end at the beginning of 2009. One of the things I liked to do quarterly was a Friday night game night. And then in March, the big event that I took them was Acquire the Fire. You could see the youth was having fun and everyone was together. The number one important thing for a youth director to do is to make sure that everyone is safe, whether it be at the church or going to a long trip. No parent wants to hear something happen to their kid. Safety is very important. Whenever I travel with youth, I like to have one or two more volunteers, preferably one male and one female, obvious reasons. One night I did a lock-in and I had another adult with me. So I separated the boys and girls and I had to stay up all night just to make sure nothing bad happened. And nothing did. Now over here, what you're seeing is our first fundraiser event. The youth put on a talent show so that they could raise money to go Tell Camp. And then in June of 2008, I took 15 youth to Go Tell Camp in Lynchburg, Virginia. You can see they had opportunity to experience the college that I went to. And the first thing you see is them enjoying the wonderful cafeteria. Then they got to see in front of the Moss Hall. And I think this is right where we just arrived. As you can see, that is the school cafeteria. And in the fall, I did a Harvest Fest. And this was an opportunity to invite the community to come into the church and build a fellowship and relationship. And then finally, our end of the year youth program, Christ the King. You can see the youth are rehearsing. From 2011 to 2014, I attended Liberty Baptist Theological Seminary. At the end of 2014, I received my Master of Arts in Theology. While there, I had a wonderful opportunity to do evangelism and outreach. I believe in my heart I'm called as an evangelist and that one day I will be a senior pastor somewhere. Going back to 2011 to 2014, I set up things like a local outreach bus stop ministry. Over there is where I was called as an evangelist. I remember the first time going there in November of 2011. A friend brought me out there to open air preach. He handed me his Bible and I started open air preach. Right there, my eyes open, and it gave me courage that if I could open air preach to a group of strangers, I could speak and preach anywhere with no problem. After doing the bus stop, I looked for other opportunities, such as a juvenile center. Part of the evangelist outreach program there was they sent students throughout the United States and throughout the world. I remember having an opportunity for Easter weekend with a church I was about to be launched in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We set up an Easter egg hunt for kids, and they got to watch a Christian film. I think it was one of the VeggieTales. Then in 2012, the fall of 2012, I went to Johnson City, Tennessee, and we spent a weekend with a church that I was about to launch. They did a some sort of carnival thing at a high school football game. We got opportunity to share the gospel and witness to high school students there. And then in 2013 of January, we went out for a couple of days to Long Island to help people that had been affected by the hurricane. I remember a good friend of mine, James, we went late night and we hung out at Times Square. And through that, we had an opportunity to evangelize with this rapper. This rapper tried to sell us a CD. And James happened to be a rapper himself. And he says, I like to rap too. And he just started rapping the gospel. And we just shared the gospel with them in front of people at Times Square. I thought it was a very cool experience. While as a seminary student, I had a wonderful opportunity to teach Sunday school at Thomas Road Baptist Church. And for a while, I got an opportunity to help the co-founders there, Dr. Elmer Towns. Then after that, my heart was being led to Hope of Gold Fellowship. Hope of Gold Fellowship was a ministry that focused on prisoners. And so I went there, I served there for a while in the building, I cleaned the facility, and I had opportunity to teach and preach the word there. So those are things that I got to do while I was at Liberty Baptist Theological Seminary. So you can see from what I've told you that I had a lot of opportunity to do outreach and evangelism, which is what I'm trying to get back to. Seminary students would do evangelism at the bus stop. The way we would begin is a time of prayer. After that, a time of worship. And one of us would do open air preach. And once the open air preach was done, we would do some one-on-one.
And was saved, actually, in the Marine Corps.
Oh, wow.
In boot camp.
Okay.
God just grabbed a hold of my heart, and He changed me radically every single day.
And once a week, I would meet with Korean students to practice English, and we would use evangelism methods. And on Sunday, I would teach college students at Thomas Road Baptist Church. One of the outreach we did was a potato drop with Gleaning for the World. My best friend Rocky and I went out and we gathered potatoes, and they were used to be dropped off at food banks at churches. Liberty Baptist Theological Seminary gave me the opportunity to use my skills with preaching and teaching and do some outreach. Here in this picture, this was my final run at Liberty University. This was the third and final degree that I received in the Master of Arts of Theological Studies. Now, since about May 24, 2014, I got married. And March 7, 2015, my wife and I had our first and only son, Samuel. So probably since about 2015, I've been a family man, and I have not had as much time like I did when I was a seminary, where I could just do outreach nearly 24/7 like a revolving door. Well, thank God for the internet, and thank God that it's easier to set up videos and podcasts. That's what I've been doing. Over at Spotify, I have TRP, the Revelation Podcast. I have somewhere between 50 to 100 audio where I preach and teach from the Bible. And then between my two video channels over on YouTube and Rumble, I have somewhere between the two channels about 50 to 100 videos that I've done. So if you want to see what I say and where I'm coming from, I definitely encourage you to check out those three things: the Revelation Podcast, Patmos Channel, and Patmos Island.